I thought that now was just as good a time as any to start filming for this vlog, and I am in a little bit of a rush. I need to throw on some makeup and head out and run some errands before meeting my aunt for dinner tonight. So I'm gonna throw on some makeup real quick and maybe talk to you a little bit about some of the books that I've read today, and also maybe a little bit about some writing stuff that I've been working on. I don't know how beauty gurus do this on the regular because I'm feeling very self-conscious right now. I never thought about all of the weird faces that I make when I put makeup on, and now I have a camera on me. So, okay, we're gonna let that sit for a minute, and then let's see. So I've set a goal for myself in the next couple of days here to try and get through a lot of the short books that I currently have on my TBR, either from my own collection or that I have checked out from the library. I have a number of poetry collections and graphic novels out from the library, as well as a number of very short books, novellas that are under 200 pages. So I figure I don't have that much going on over the next couple of days, so I might as well just buckle down and get through them. Not that I'm trying to meet my reading goal anymore, I have already passed that for this year, but I would like to try and knock off as many of the books that I have on my TBR and in my collection that are unread as possible. I'm gonna be trying a new cream eyeshadow this evening. I hope it works out. It's from Sydney Grace. This is the shade Starry Night. I read a really cute graphic novel last night, The Sprite and the Gardener, I believe it was called. It was very short but very heartwarming and gives you all of the warm fuzzies. The art was also really lovely and pastel and ethereal looking. So if you're in the mood for something lighthearted, I would recommend that one. And then the other graphic novel that I read last night and really fell in love with is the first volume in the Invisible Kingdom series, which just blew me out of the water, if I'm gonna be honest. I really enjoyed the story. It is a sci-fi kind of epic that follows both a crew of a starship as well as we'll call her a religious nun of a religious order that in many circles is seen as being a little bit out there. But the two groups end up colliding because the ship captain and her crew work for a delivery corporation that reminds me a lot of Amazon, I'm gonna be quite honest. They have a crash landing on a moon and they realize that there's something amiss in their ship manifest and that it looks like somebody is funneling out large sums of money from this corporation that they work for, and there might be a connection with this religious cult that our nun is from. Meanwhile, our nun is a new initiate, and she is uncovering evidence of the same thing on her end, and so the two sides eventually meet up. But I really enjoyed the writing, the narration, the dialogue between characters. There's also definitely some lovely queer rep in this story, which I appreciated, as well as some really interesting character designs, if I'm honest. I like how that's looking. I just need to blend a bit more. A lot more. Let's see, I also finished reading this morning Convenience Store Woman by Sakata Murata. Really enjoyed that as well. I've definitely been in the mood for shorter books recently, dabbling a little bit more in some lit fic. If you watched my November reading wrap-up, you will know that I read Migloo by Ottessa Moshfegh and had a time with that. I think Ottessa Moshfegh is seen in a lot of ways as a contemporary lit fic queen. So in some ways I've been intimidated about getting into her work. I'll be honest, I didn't love Migloo. I could definitely see how skilled of a writer Ottessa Moshfegh is by reading that novella. I think it was her first novella. But let me know if you feel similarly to this. Sometimes when I hear lit fic being talked about online and say on award lists, just reading the description and sometimes how people talk about it, there is that, like, I don't know, fear inside of me, or maybe like intimidation that I have about reading books like that because I feel like I'm not smart enough to enjoy them, or just that my tastes don't always necessarily align with some of the major lit fic authors or books that are out. which, like, obviously to each their own. You should read what you want, read what makes you happy. But sometimes, I don't know, I get intimidated by lit fic. And I think I have heard that Convenience Store Women kind of falls into the lit fic category, so I was really happy that I ended up enjoying that book. I think for me it might be a matter of just finding lit fic authors that I enjoy. I think lit fic is also a genre that I don't necessarily always go for, just because it can be a little depressing. And sometimes, actually often, when I am reading, I'm looking for more escapism from my own thoughts and feelings and what might be going on in the world around me. But let me know, do you have similar thoughts about lit fic? If you read a lot of lit fic, let me know how you got into it. What is your niche? Oh, the other small novella that I finished this morning, I listened to it on audiobook, and that was Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente, who is one of my favorite authors. And she is definitely one that does not shy away from the out there, quirky, and sometimes a little bit twisted narrations. And Comfort Me with Apples was no exception. She tends to, and also in this book, works a lot with retellings of fairy tales. And this one definitely had elements of Bluebeard in it, but was also incorporating elements and twisting them of the creation story with Adam and Eve. And I thought it was brilliant, and I really loved it. It was very dark. Warning, it was very dark, but very good. But my hope and my plan is to knock off a number of the poetry collections that I have checked out from the library at the moment. I think I have 8 or 9. Okay, I'm liking how that is looking. Sorry, I had to stop talking while doing my makeup so I could actually do my makeup and get out the door. But I will take you along with me for the evening as I'm running errands. And then later when I get home, hopefully get through some more short reads. Hello again, friends. It is a few days later than I anticipated dragging out this vlog for. I had hoped that I could fit about 2 days worth of reading into this vlog, but here we are a few days later than that, and that is okay. In my heart, I love these foggy, cozy winter days and nights, but my brain is another story. My brain does not always love them, and so sometimes I have to take a little bit extra care of myself, and that's kind of what happened the past couple of days. But I wanted to come back on here and talk to you about some of the small books that I ended up reading and listening to in the past couple of days. My plan of getting through a number of the poetry collections that I am currently halfway through or have checked out from the library didn't quite follow through. I just found that my head was not in a place to really focus on poetry, so I actually ended up listening to a really lovely magical male-male romance novel called Spellbound, and I believe it was the author's debut novel, and just had so much fun with it. It was just what I needed. It's an urban fantasy set in an alternative 1920s New York, and I was really rooting for the couple that was in that book. They were just, all of the feelings. It was the dose of serotonin that I needed over the past couple of days. I also ended up listening to The Winter People by Joseph Brochek, which is another middle grade novel by him. He is an Abenaki writer, poet, and scholar, and he writes a lot of middle grade as well as adult novels that feature Indigenous protagonists and Indigenous storylines. And this one was no exception. It follows a 14-year-old boy whose town is attacked by white settlers, and his mother and his sister are taken captive, and he goes on a journey to rescue them. I also ended up making my way through Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. This is an Australian bit of classic lit. I think this came out in the 60s, but it's set 1900 in Australia, and follows a group of girls at an elite boarding school that go on a picnic on St. Valentine's Day at Hanging Rock, and some of them don't return. So there's definitely a bit of a mystery aspect to this. It's definitely a slow burn. I ended up watching the movie adaptation of this before I read the book, and so I knew that most of the mystery doesn't actually get resolved. It's more so, the story itself more so explores the after effects that this event has on the people at the school as well as the people in the surrounding town. I did enjoy this, but if I am going to nitpick, there were a few things that rubbed me a little bit wrong about this book, namely how the author tends to ascribe a person's level of attractiveness with how good of a person they are, or how the majority of characters who are quote-unquote described as being very attractive are all of the rich characters, whereas the working class and otherwise don't get described quite as nicely. And I'm also specifically thinking about one of the female characters, one of the boarders at the school, Edith, who is seen as the school dunce, but her weight and her appearance is sort of described as a reflection on her character, which personally I don't quite jive with. The other thing that I think that I would say about this book is it is mysterious, it is a slow burn. I think I enjoyed the ending of the book a little bit more than the movie. The movie leaves the ending to be much more ambiguous and open-ended. And don't get me wrong, the ending of the book is also rather ambiguous, but it felt like there was better resolution at the end. You don't end up finding out definitively what happens to the girls that went missing as well as their teacher. But personally, I think I found the ending of the book a little bit more satisfying than I did the movie. And then a book that I picked up last night and have continued to read slowly bit by bit today is A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood. And oh my goodness, I knew within the first 2 pages I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna love this. The writing is just, it's so good. I'm really loving Christopher Isherwood's writing style and his very unique but also intimate character study of the main character of this book, and I'm really excited to continue reading this. I think I also mentioned in the first part of this video that I would talk a little bit about some of my current writing projects. I'll touch on a little bit of that here. I think that I was hoping that in planning on reading a number of poetry collections that it would give me some inspiration for some of my own work, but as you know, that didn't end up happening, and at the moment, I think I am sort of wrestling with that age-old dilemma of a writer, of that balance between making sure that you are creating your own work while also feeling like you know enough or have consumed enough of the surrounding literature or topic to write properly. I didn't really come to love poetry or start writing poetry until a few years ago, so I feel a little bit like a novice. So there's definitely part of me that wants to read as much poetry as I possibly can so that I can feel comfortable and assured in what I myself am writing. But at the same time, that also sometimes gets inside my brain and holds me back from writing. So that's currently where I am with some of my writing. I have fallen a little bit off the horse of doing daily writing sprints and poetry exercises but fingers crossed, knock on wood, that I will get back to that. I recently set a goal for myself to try and submit to some literary magazines or poetry contests in the next couple of months, so I'm hoping that those deadlines and goals and prompts will help prompt me to continue writing. But yeah, I think that is where I'm gonna leave this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far and you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. That apparently helps. And if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this vlog, please let me know in the comments below. What were your thoughts? What were your takes on them? Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in my next video.